What? No way. So he's got, let me wrap my head around this. It's something to put a piece of wood, one solid piece of wood, on the CNC and make a tray or make a sign. But I'll be honest, the design aspect from a CAD standpoint has what has kept me away from making these projects. Although I can stumble my way through it, it hasn't been easy, but it's something that I want to do. The sponsor of today's video, Fiverr, has challenged me to go on their website and find some designers that can make my project ideas come to life. If you're not familiar with Fiverr, it's an online marketplace. Literally, you can find freelancers to do anything, from graphic designers to website builders to vector tracing. Vector tracing is something you find a little more helpful. So I'm going to take this opportunity to make a project that I otherwise couldn't have designed myself. I honestly don't know what I'm going to get back with the files and what they're going to look like, but I think this is going to be a really cool experience, and this workflow that I'm about to show you is going to be really, really cool. Let's get started. So the very first step is to come up with a project. What the heck am I going to make? I've got a 3-year-old boy that would love some sort of vehicle that I could push him around in. At first I was looking at an airplane. Imagine that, like a ride-on airplane. That would be neat. I wanted this to be something that hasn't been done before, something completely unique. This is where, hang with me here because I know I'm going to lose some of you here. This is where I went to AI. Trust me on this. AI is super helpful when you're looking at a blank page and you don't know what to start with. So I went to AI and I typed in some prompts to see what we could get. And here's the first one that I got. I typed in wooden kids ride on a toy truck. A kid driving the truck with dad pushing from the back. Simple design. Again, I'm trying to get inspiration, get a picture that I can send to the designer and be like, I want to make this. Here's a picture of that, which was okay. Some of those would work, but not exactly what I was looking for. So with AI, we just have to refine the prompt. So I did it again. This time, I added a couple more words here, and I got this. Now, this is kind of more what I was looking for. I just love this design. This design's really cool. I settled on like this mail truck one because it's simple. I think it can be machined really easily. It has clean lines. You look at some of these other ones, they have big bulky parts where you'd have to laminate a bunch of pieces of wood together. So, okay, this is my inspiration. I'm gonna pick 2 designers. I'm gonna pay them the same amount of money. I'm gonna send this design to them and see what kind of results I get with each one. And then I'll pick my favorite and make it. All right, so I'm gonna go to fiverr.com and I am gonna search for Vectric and see what comes up. I'm looking at how many jobs each person has done and their reviews. That's what I'm banking this on. And obviously the description to make sure they can do what I can do. I'm just gonna go through here. I'm gonna pick a couple, send off our picture with dimensions and see what we get back.
1 week later.
All right, so the first designer just sent me back the files. This is wild. Let me wrap my head around this with you. Now, again, you can see here, this is the image that I sent the designers. And here's what we've got back. All the parts are laid out. It's just crazy that I sent him an AI model. And someone modeled this up for me to create in the real world. I have this file forever now, and I can keep making them over and over and over again. This is just wild. Okay, so I asked him, I said, this is great. Can you give me a 3D view of how this is going to be assembled? Now, this is where my mind absolutely got blown. Look at this. He actually, the 3D model of the exact parts of the exact model that I sent to him. So here, this kind of looks like an ambulance, as Andrew, the cameraman, said. No, this is so cool. This is actually something that my son can sit in and has a steering wheel, drive, has wheels. Because I do want this to roll, right? The whole thing at the bottom, at the beginning was I want this to be functional. So it looks like he just has some holes here that I didn't give him any directions. I probably could follow up with that, but I'm thinking maybe some 3/4 inch bolts. How well that's gonna work in 3/4 inch plywood, I'm not sure. So thank you, Usama, for doing this very, very good work. Let's see what the next one sent us. So our next designer, Causer, sent us some files here. Again, sent them the same AI generated wooden truck, and this is what we got back. Okay, you can see, obviously it should look very similar, right? But you can see that he's got a lot more going on here as far as the design goes. I would say this one's a little more complex. Let's scroll down here, what he's got us. Okay, what's this? This is a wheel assembly. What? No way. He's even got the wheel bearing and like part number in here, 6205. That's really, really neat. And then you can see here how the design, let's see if I can zoom in. You can see how the design on the other one, it went straight across at the bottom. And Causer put these, it extends downward. And so it has enough meat there. I think it's going to be stable enough. And then it looks like he designed it to where we can have an axle go through. Obviously, if we're using bearings, we're going to have an axle go through because that's going to support the weight. So again, I wanted this to be functional and roll. I think this one does a much better job of accomplishing that. So with all that information and everything we got back, I'm going to run with the Causer Kid Truck. Hey, that sounds really good. The Causer Kid Truck. That's what I'm going to name it. I started by going to my local hardware store to get the plywood. I gathered 2 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood and broke them down into manageable 4x4 sections using my track saw. I'm trying to make this truck look as much like the AI generated truck as possible. So I chose this maple face plywood to match. It's not cheap. This plywood ran me approximately $90 a sheet. For work holding, I used 1¼ inch wood screws in the corners to secure the plywood to the CNC bed. I always make sure to leave room in the corners for this, ensuring my workpiece is secure during the machining process and that I don't run into the screws and break a bit. I always pre-drill my holes to help reduce splitting, and this bit block makes it super simple to change between bits. My friend Ryan designs and makes these, and I just wanted to show you them quickly. It makes it super simple to change between my drill bit and driving bit. If you want to learn more, there's a link in the description for you to pick one up. I exported the G-code from Vectric, my design software, and then imported that file into Mach 4, which is my control software. Before cutting, I always test the files that I haven't run before with an air pass. This is a dry run to ensure everything is aligned and there are no errors in the code. This was especially important this time since I didn't design this file. To do this, I zero my machine like I typically would, but I set the Z0 height to 2 inches above the surface. Then I speed up my feed rate as fast as it will go just to make this go more quickly. Since everything tested out well, it was time to cut the parts out. I used a 1/4 inch compression bit for all toolpaths except the inside of the wheels. This gave me a clean top edge and a clean bottom edge. For the wheels, I used a bowl bit so that the rim of the wheel would have a rounded edge. Totally not necessary, but thought it would be a nice touch. For sheet 1, the machine time was approximately 30 minutes. For sheet 2, it took about 20 minutes. And for sheet 3, just had 2 parts and it only took 5 minutes. I was really happy with these machining times and the quality of cut I was getting. All parts for this project were cut in less than an hour. Here are all the parts laid out. Not knowing exactly what parts were what, I stacked all the parts together by the sheet that they came from. That way I could reference them in the design files. Now it was time for assembly. To assemble the main components of the truck, I used pocket holes with screws and wood glue. For the smaller parts that were not structural, I used wood glue and pin nails. Everything went together really quickly and easily, except the wheels. More on that in a second. I decided not to use the parts that go on the very top of the truck, and instead I put a round over on them. Since my kids will be all over this truck playing on it, I wanted to round over every single edge so it was nice and smooth. So this just made the most sense. The axle and the wheels gave me a run for my money. Again, I wanted the truck to look like the AI generated truck, but here's the thing. AI doesn't take into account the functionality aspect of the truck. But luckily, Causer, the Fiverr contractor, figured a lot of this out for me, including what bearings to buy. The main struggle I had was finding a shaft that would fit the 25mm bearings that he recommended. The only thing that was left was to put the final sanding on all of the surfaces so it was made sure it was extra smooth. This workflow has unlimited possibilities when it comes to the projects you can make on your CNC. That was the whole reason I put this video together, and the whole thought is to remove barriers and provide solutions so you can create more projects, cool projects that you didn't even think were possible on your CNC. So to recap the process, use AI to conceptualize your project. Number 2, send pictures and parameters to a Fiverr contractor. Number 3, work with the Fiverr contractor on design and CNC files. 4, open the files in your CAD/CAM software and modify the feeds and speeds. And 5, machine your project and make it exist in the real world. This was a huge project, but this workflow still works, even on simple projects. This process saved me a ton of time and made something that didn't exist in the real world exist for my son to enjoy. I encourage you to try out Fiverr and specifically Causer for your next CNC project, whether big or small. Fiverr was generous to offer all of my viewers 10% off by using the code in the description below. The links to Fiverr and Causer specifically will be linked in the video description. I'd love to know your thoughts on this project in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.